Getting the good ship Mercedes-Benz to shift from the fossil-fueled ice age to the new era of electrification has taken a little bit of time, but it's full steam ahead with this, the new EQE SUV.
The clue is in the name, but this is the SUV relative to the EQE Saloon we already know. These cars being part of a totally new generation of pure electric Mercedes that launched with the truly futuristic EQS. And while all of them share some core values and tech, like super sleek aero styling, the amazing hyperscreen full-width infotainment system, and wheelbase shrinking four-wheel steering, they also claim identities of their own. So let's look a little closer at this EQE SUV and figure out where it fits into this new all-electric Mercedes family.
So, what is the EQE SUV? Well, it's fast, it's big, and it is very luxurious. It looks a little bit like the EQE Saloon, but it's a bit taller and it's just that little bit better looking, or less like a blob anyway. I rather like the front. Nice big black grille with some good attention to detail. Impressive lights, which I shall tell you about later on. Around the side, it's got a bit of extra cladding around the wheel arch to give it a bit more ruggedness. And then these familiar pop-out door handles when you stroke them. And then round the back, a nice set of rear lights. It's good, but what's not so good is the price tag. So the EQE Saloon is around £75,000, but the SUV starts at 90. And by the time you've added all the bits that you probably are going to want to add on, you're looking at 100 plus easy.
What do you get for the extra cash then? Well, although it's a little shorter than the EQE, it's a lot taller, so there's tons more room for rear seat passengers. In the back, there's also armrests with cup holders, separate vents and USB ports. As for the boot, well, it's massive in comparison. It's a hatchback, so the opening is super wide, handy for large objects, and storage is really decent at 522 litres, around 35% bigger than the Saloon. Fold the seats down, and that extends to 1,675 litres.
There's also a lot more tech than there was in the EQE Saloon, including this, the signature hyperscreen, which spans the width of the car. Now this comes as standard on the top two trim levels, but if you opt for a lower spec car, then you have to pay £8,000 for the privilege. On the passenger screen, you can watch films, play video games, surf the internet. However, there are hidden cameras in the dashboard, so if the driver looks off the road for longer than 3 seconds, the screen will actually dim. For the driver, there's this big OLED display in the middle, which has all of the usual functions, including the heating, which is a little bit annoying, but then Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and one of the most detailed sat-navs I've ever seen. If you take London, for example, look at that. Worth it? I'm not so sure, but it is pretty cool. One other thing that you should know about is that the EQE SUV has one of the best stereos in the world. It's by Burmester and it uses spatial audio, which basically feels like the music is just floating right by your face. It's incredible. There are heaps of additional comfort options, including different massage settings, and you can set the driver position to your exact height, and it will put you in the optimum position. Perfect. As for the interior, some nice leather seats and good quality dash, the stunning ambient lights which look very cool at night. It all feels very plush. Good storage as well, with a large cubby in the centre. This area at the front with cup holders and wireless phone charging, another large cubby underneath, good sized door bins and glove box. Yeah, it's decent. So here we are in the top range EQE SUV 500 4MATIC, to give you its full name. And what's it like to drive? It's nice. It is very quiet and very smooth. The steering is really light. The brakes and acceleration, again, very smooth. The visibility is fantastic all round. and it's really soft. It has very good air suspension, which adapts not only to the road, but also the number of passengers that you have in the car. It feels quite similar to the Model Y, but it just has that extra bit of comfort. It also has the nifty rear wheel steering system, which makes turning a big car like this feel like a small one.
There are AMG versions on the way as well, but to start with, there are two models to choose from, these being the EQE 350 and EQE 500, claiming 324 and 334 miles respectively from a pretty chunky battery. Will they actually do that though? Well, let's just say Mercedes electric cars haven't impressed us thus far with their efficiency and range. Cars like the EQC, basically electrified adaptations of existing internal combustion models, especially disappointing. You'd hope this new purely electric generation might do a bit better, but based on Rory's experiences with the EQS he's running at the moment, we might take those range claims with a pinch of salt. It's also quite a bit less range than the EQE Saloon on which this is based, so if you're looking for a long-distance EV, that might be the better pick. But the proof is in the driving.
All versions are pretty powerful. This one has a hefty 402 horsepower and 858 newton meters of torque from its twin motor. There are faster AMG versions coming out, but given that this one does 0 to 62 in less than 5 seconds, it's plenty fast enough. Those twin motors are a big difference over the regular Saloon, which only has the one motor driving its rear wheels. On paper, the performance actually doesn't look all that different, but you really notice that additional torque coming from that second motor. Another difference between the SUV and the Saloon is the sound it makes. So this car has an exclusive soundscape called Serene Breeze. Me neither, but apparently it's a thing. Not only that, but each car has its own signature scent too, and this one is called Hibiscus Mood.
Obviously, the EQE isn't perfect. There are definitely a few little annoyances that you might not expect from a car costing this much money. For example, the power button is right in the middle, where you might accidentally turn the car on or off if you rest your elbow on it whilst operating the touchscreen, or the hazard lights, which I did constantly. The buttons on the steering wheel are also easy enough to accidentally press, so you can suddenly find yourself turning on the cruise control, which can be a bit of an eye-opener as the car leaps forward by itself. The pop-out door handles look cool, but they don't feel as high quality as they should. And that amazing sat-nav I spoke about earlier is just a bit too slow for my liking.
There are some good points too, plenty in fact. It has one of the most detailed and biggest head-up displays that I've seen in the business, which actually project these beautiful images onto the windscreen, but it looks like they're actually projecting onto the road. And those lights I mentioned earlier, 2.6 million pixels lighting up the road ahead. It even picks out pedestrians without blinding other drivers. And it has a very good voice assist. Hey Mercedes,
How may I help you?
tell me a joke.
2 Wi-Fi engineers got married. The reception was fantastic.
Something to work on, Mercedes. On the whole, yeah, I'm a big fan of the EQE SUV. I mean, competition is really stiff right now for big electric family SUVs, but this one brings an awful lot to the table. Technology and comfort being its two strongest points. I mean, it's literally dripping in tech, and it has some really lovely features, which makes driving it very pleasant.
And it should. At over £100,000, the price is somewhat outrageous. But if you've got the cash to spare, then it's well worth looking at. Just keep in mind that there are others on the market that perform a similar task for a bit less cash.